We welcome you for this session. And so, like I mentioned, the host is Chris Excel Training and Consulting. We carry out corporate individual training at various levels, even up to the advanced levels, and also consulting on data management and analytics. Now, the session should actually be 1 hour, so I don't want to give you so much of a discussion around this. So let me move straight and be able to introduce our presenter. So our presenter today is Mr. Boniface Cheriot, a very well grounded Excel professional, a very highly seasoned data analyst in various areas. Just to mention a few, in advanced Excel and dashboard reporting, data cleaning, data analytics, and visualization. So basically just a bit of that. So I just want to take this opportunity to be able to usher in Boniface in, because time is well spent. We don't want to again to waste time. I just want to make sure that we are able to take this forward and let us be able to learn as much as possible from Boniface. Please feel free to ask questions, and we know that all shall be well. Otherwise, welcome. Welcome, Boniface. So that is his social media. You can follow him on LinkedIn, and you can be able to engage further. Boniface, welcome. You can share your screen.
So you can see my screen clearly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so maybe I can start. I can dive in. So today, I'm going to show you how to create a dashboard like this. So I like creating dashboard and making it look nice. Using features like buttons. Actually using the text box. Yeah. And combining the text boxes with developer tools. So usually there's developer tools which we can use to make dynamic dashboards. So the agenda of today's session is to create something that can be interactive. Like for example, if you choose this category like chocolate chip, you can see its performance on different times. If you choose category by country, you can see how India was performing. So sales is one important aspect for performance in a company. That's how you can generate revenue. So based on this, I'm going to create something like this from scratch and have interactive buttons like this. So like for this category, if I want to look at the cumulative sales so far for fortune cookies, for oatmeal, for snickerdoodle, for sugar, for white chocolate, I can use this button. So this button is in the developer tools. It's a button that can be used to create an interactive or a dynamic dashboard. Also, I have this area. So being in a company, it's good to know like the total profits made so far since you started the company. So I was trying to create something that from this, someone can see the total revenue generated so far, like to date, since the company started or in a given period, let's say a month. Then this category is for profits to date, and this category is for all the sales units, like all the units sold for the chocolate chips, oatmeal, raisin. So then we have this filter button. So this is for the different times, like 2022, 2023. Then, so based on that, you can see the performance. So I guess I'll dive in and create something new from this. So I'll start by creating a new sheet, a new workbook. Then from here, we can go on. So the first step while looking at your data is converting your data to tables. So, and remove this first. So actually, before creating, okay. So so the first step while creating a dashboard, you just have to look at the data set. So this is where data cleaning comes. So firstly, I usually try to remove the duplicates so that I can know the number of products, the unique products I have in my data. So I usually use this button, then remove duplicates. Then from this, it's clearly I have these products. I have chocolate chip, fortune cookie, oatmeal, raisin. So like my products are 6. So the first step before making any dashboard or any pivot table is making sure your data makes sense and your data is clean. So the next, I'll look at the countries so that I can know the number of countries I have so that I can't be surprised. So I'll do the same thing, remove duplicates. So from the data, I have these countries, India to US. So now we can start making our pivot table. Then I can create a dashboard. So the first step while creating a dashboard or a pivot table is converting your data into table so that you can avoid surprises. So when you convert your data into table, when new data comes in, you don't have to refresh every pivot table. So firstly, I'll start with Control T. Then I can convert my data into a table. Yeah, so I've converted my data into table. So now I can create a pivot table from here. So to create a pivot table, you go to Insert, then you go to Pivot Table. Then you choose the default setting is the new worksheet. So there is this option, but I go to the new worksheet. Then from here, since I want to analyze 3 things, I want to look at the total units sold, the profits, the revenues, and the profits by country and products. So since I have one pivot table, I can create duplicates of this. Then I can call this units sold. So I can call this profits. I can call this revenue. And I can call this revenue profits by market products. So we can start from the first one, the units sold. So I usually like starting from point A. Most of the people always insert a new column, but I usually start from A. So from this, if you look at the right side, you have your data. So this is the data from the new data. So like our data source has been pulled to this side. So something to note is that using pivot tables, you have these options. If you want different views of your data or your screen, you can select from this. So for my case, so when you have a large data set with a lot of columns, then you can use these options so that everything can fit here. So for my case, I like using the first option. So I'm going to generate a chart for total units sold. So the aggregate values are usually in this side, then I can put my date here. So something to note is when you do that, your data is grouped. So you can right click that and go to ungroup. Then you can change your data. So you can group by the category you want. You can group by months, by quarter, based on what you want to see. So for my case, I'll be grouping my data by months so that using the filter, I'll be looking at a full year from January to December. So from here, I can use a pivot chart and I want to see the trend in my data. So these are the units sold. So we can clean this area so that we can just have the graphs in our tables. So you can remove this so that this area is clear using these options. So you right click, then you go to hide value field buttons on chart or hide all field buttons on chart. So when you do that, your chart looks like this. So since I'm creating a dashboard, so I'll have a new sheet for the dashboard. So let's call this dashboard. Then I can have it on this end. Then I can copy. So while creating my dashboard, I usually like to remove the grid lines. So I don't like having the grid lines. So that's done. Then something else, I don't like usually using the default color. So I usually like choosing the colors of my choices. Like for this case, I'll go with that or something else. Yeah, I guess this color is okay. So while creating my dashboard, I like something that looks so nice. So you go to shapes, then this option, then you have your shapes. So on this shape, we can call this company X performance, company X dashboard. Then I can increase the size like to 24. Then we can center align this. You can have this in the center. So I can have my first chart here. So this chart is for the units sold. So we can go to our next category of charts, the profits. So in a company, getting to know the profits in a given period is very important because that's the only way you can know your performance, how you're performing. So from this end, I'll go to my field list. Then I want to have the profits within a given period for my company. So again, I'll group this by month. Then I can introduce a pivot chart. So basically, I'm looking at the trends in the performance of this company. That's why I'm choosing to use the line graphs. So this is the profits trend. I can call this profits trends. Today I have a lot of typos. I don't know why. Profits trends, profit trend. Then, as usual, it's good to remove all these values or all these items in your chart. So you delete so that you can have a clear chart. And you right click. Can also right click. Can also right click on this. Then hide all fields on the buttons. Then also we copy this here. So this is my second chart. So something else, I also want to look at the revenues in my company or in this company. So I'll do the same thing. I'll go to the revenue within a given period of time. Then from here I can use a pivot chart and I have the trends for the revenue. So revenue is important in any company because that's how you know how you proceeding or how you performing. So I'll have this chart. So there's a difference with the two charts. So in this chart, these values for the dates appears. So this is because of the grouping I did. So I can repeat that for the units sold. To remove that kind of, to make sure all these are the same, like January to December, to make sure they look the same for consistency. So I can repeat that. Units sold, and from the field list, I can change this to units sold. Then we have our three most important charts. So in any company, you will always want to look at the profits, the units sold, and the revenues. So this was the units sold trend in a given period of time. So at this point, I can change the size, or I can format the size and properties of my charts so that we have the same width and the same height. So I'll go with 2.5 and a height of 4.5. So then also I can format this category to display the units in thousands. So there is that option to display the units in thousands or hundreds. You're always free to choose the type of values you want to see in your data. So I'll do the same. I want to see my units in thousands. Also for this, I want to see my units in thousands. Then I want to align my chart to be on top. So I can use the page up key to make sure it fits. Then also I want this to be at the topmost part. So we can do that. Then we can do this for this. So something else to note is that it should make more sense when your data is well aligned, like the thousands. For this case, we have there are thousands in this section. So I'll do the same for this. And to make sure I have that space, you can click anywhere inside this area, then you can change. You have the option of changing how you want your data to look like. So then we have this. Also, my units are in thousands. So I usually like having the same number of categories. How do I say it? I usually like to have the same number of levels, like 20, 40. If there are 4, there are 4 across. So I can use 125,000. Then we have 4 of them. Then for these to have 300K by 4, that's like the minimum can be 75. Oh, I can work with 75. Work with 75 for that. And I have 4. For this, I can work with 30. And I have 4. So far my charts looking good. So something else I like doing is grouping these, so that in case of any movement in case someone move one of them, all can move, or so that it's easy to align or to move. So to do that, you click all of them, then you can group. So grouping your charts make it easy to move them around to anywhere you want. If I want my charts here, I can move them to any level I want. So that's it. So I want to move them here. Then it looks like this is a bit on a high. Yeah. So now I have the units sold, trend, profits, and the revenue. So something else I want to see in my dashboard is the profits by markets and products. So I'll do the same. So for this, I'll use a different category of chart. So I'll click my data, then choose products, and choose the country. I want to look at the country and the products. So I want to look at the profits by country and products. So I'll have the profits value. So anytime you're making a pivot chart or a pivot table, you usually have the values in the value section, or the aggregates in the value section. So, and something else to note in this area, if you want to use the 1000 separator, you can do it from here. You can right click, then you can format, number format. Then in my data, I don't want decimal points, and I want to use a 1000 separator. So my data now looks like this. So now we can make a chart out of this. So I want to look at profits by country and profits by products. So you have the option of sorting these if you want to sort from the smallest to the highest, or from the largest to the smallest. Also, you have the option of choosing from here. You can sort from the largest to the smallest, depending on what you want to see in your data. So now we can make another chart. So I'm going to use this kind of chart, a stacked column chart, so that I can look at all the countries and all my products. So the bottom one is the most profitable, or the one with a lot of sales, to the one with the smallest sales. So like in the first case, we remove this so that we can have all the space to visualize our data. Then can remove all this from here. Then like before, I want to see four categories here, or four different sections. So I'll choose 125. It's my scale. 25,000, so that my data can be consistent. Yeah, while doing data analysis, it's good to be consistent in your presentation. Then for this, I'll say profits by country and products. So profits by country and products. So then I can have this chart in my table, in my pivot. I can have this chart in my dashboard. So now I have 4 charts. So my scale was 2.5. So to change the size of your charts, you have this option of using a number you want. So for me, I was using 2.5 for the width, for the height, and a width of 4.5. So that's it. So now I have charts with the same length, same height, and same width or length. So then I can also add this to this grouping, so that I can move them anyhow I want, or to how I want it. Then for this case, I can increase this. So while creating a dashboard, I like creating a dashboard that looks good, an appealing one. So I like using different level of colors. So this company X dashboard, I can align this in the bottom with this. Yeah. Then now, so my charts looks like this. But now to create a dashboard, you have to make something interactive or something dynamic. Say that when you want to see the profits in this particular, for a particular year, for particular products, for a particular country, or the revenue or the units sold, you can see them. So I'll introduce a slicer now. So a slicer can be used to filter data. So to create a slicer, I can use one of the pivot data, then insert a slicer. So I want to see a slicer for countries and for products. So I'll have two categories of slicers. So these slicers will be filtering my data to the way I want. So now I can copy the slicers in my dashboard. So I'll have the first slicer here, then the second slicer for the countries in this area. So for the slicers, you have an option of changing the colors, changing the way, the layout. So you have all these options, changing the height, changing the number of columns you want to see the slicer. For my case, I'll go for 2 so that I can see everything in a clear way. So to have this category of slicer, you change the columns to 2. So you have that option. You can go to 3, 4, according to how you want them to look like, how you want the slicer to look like. For my case, I want the slicer to have 2 columns. So the same for the country. I want my slicer to have 2 columns. Then from here, I can increase the size of my slicer. Then something else to note about slicers, we have different category of layouts. So for my case, I want something like this color. I like this color so far. And I'll go for the second one, I'll go for the same color again. So this color. So I'll go for this color. Yeah. So still on the case of slicers, you have the option of slicer setting. If you don't want your slicer to move around, if you want your slicer to stay in the same position so that your data, your dashboard can be the same, no one can change the way it looks, you have the option of going to the slicer settings. Actually, you have the option of going to the size and properties, then position. Then you can disable resizing. So this means I can't move my slicer. So my dashboard will look the same. Nobody can move this, but this can move. So I'll do that for all of them. But before that, I'll want to have the same width for all my slicers. So I'm going to 1.46, and for the size, my width is 3.14. So I can use the same width for this 3.14. So now they are the same. Then I will disable the movement of this. So to do that, you right click, then you disable. And for this, I'll do the same. Size, you disable. So you have all these options. to explore your slicer, to change the height, to change all this. So you can explore that to the way you want. So something else to note is, for this kind of data, I want to look at the revenue within a given period of time. So I'll have to use a filter type that can select my data to a certain period of time. So to do that, I'll introduce I'll insert something else called the timeline. So the timeline filter our data based on the period. So for example, in my data, we have two periods, 2022 and 2023. So I'll do the same. I'll insert my filter here. Then I can resize it to be the same as these ones. Yeah, then I want to look at my data in years. So I want to look at 2022, 2023. At the same time, you have the option of going for the quarters. So like if you have Q1 2021, Q2, Q3, then if you have Q1 2023, something like that, you can always use this option. For today, I'm going to be looking at the years. So timeline. So also for the timeline, you have the option of changing how it looks. So I'll go with this color also. Then now I want all my data to be interactive. So that's where you report connections. So you report connections for all your data. So when I report my connection, when I choose product, when I choose country, all of them become interactive based on the selected criteria. So to report connections, you right click, then you tick this. So this means now all these are connected. When I use one filter, all of my charts becomes interactive. So I'll do the same for this. I'll report connections. Then do the same for this. I'll report connections. So now if I want to look at my profits for India within this period of time, 2023, for a particular category of product, I can see snickerdoodles. We had this kind of sales. We had a sales unit of 61,928, and we had the highest. So this is the same. This is the trends for the sales, and for this category, I'm looking at the country by products. So all these are the units sold per a particular period of time. And for the profits, you can also look at this for this period of time. Like in June, we had profits of 41,067. That's in India. For Malaysia, you can do the same. And for all my data, like for the overall performance, you can also, based on the selection or based on using this filter button, you can see everything. So now I have a trend. Charts, and I have these charts. So what's remaining in my data, I want to look at the numbers. So I can look at the trends, but so that my data is clear, I want to introduce the numbers so that it's clear, it's easy to see for this period of time, or so far, like this company has made this amount of revenue or this amount of profits, or we've made this particular number of units sold. So that's where I'll introduce something else for that. So I'll also use this kind of color. So I'll introduce something else here for my dashboard that I can use to look at the numbers. Since now I have the trends, I have the charts, I have the columns, I have the stacked column charts, and I have the trends. So something else to have in your dashboard is the numbers, because numbers are important while looking at the performance of any company. So I'll introduce that. I'll also use the shape. Then I can introduce this here. So for this category of item, firstly, I'll change this color maybe a bit, or I can use that color. I don't know if this color is good with you, but for this, or I can change this, maybe use the same. Yeah, maybe use this color. I'll change with time. So now in this category, I'll be using developer tools. So in Excel, the developer tools can be used to also make an interactive dashboard. So developer tools, we have different categories. We have the buttons, we have the forms, then we have the option buttons. So I'll want to list all my items, then look at the number of cells so far. So we have the chocolate chip, oatmeal. So like when we started, while cleaning my data, I had removed the duplicates, and now that will be easy for me to use here. So I want to look at the total units sold so far since the company began, for chocolate chip, for fortune cookie, for oatmeal, for sugar, for this. So to do that, I'll make some analysis using my data. So I won't use a pivot table for that. So I'll make an analysis, then filter this data using the developer tools. So I'll introduce a new sheet. So I'll introduce a new sheet. Then I can call my sheet analysis. So in my analysis, I want to look at the total sales for this so far for all my data sets. So that's where I can use the functions. I can use the SUMIF function to get the number of cells for this. So I'll want to look at the sales units. I'll also want to look at the profits, because in a company, there's no need of running a product if it doesn't make a profit. So based on that, you can make decisions on whether you'll continue with the production. So to find the sales unit for chocolate chip, I'll use the SUMIF function, where I'll say SUMIF. The SUMIF function has this category of criteria: the range, the criteria, the sum range. So the range is where this data is in my data set. So that's this. Then I'll also look at, I'll use this criteria chocolate chip, and I want to look at the sales units. So from my data, I can look at the sales units. So it means so far I've had total sales for chocolate chip of 255,996. So then I can use the F4 to lock my data so that it doesn't change. Yeah, then I have all the cells for my data, all the cells made. So to confirm if that makes sense, you can do this. Then you can see from here it makes sense. It's the actual figure. It's a correct number. Then I'll also want to look at the profits so far for all these categories, so that management can decide on whether to stop the production or how to go about it. So I'll use the SUMIF function again. So I'll SUMIF my data. So then I have the criteria chocolate chip, and I want to look at the profits so far. So to make sure I have the correct figures. I usually use F4, or if my keyboard doesn't have F4, you can use the $ Shift and 4. Then these are profits for this company so far. So this is a profit of 2,113. So you can confirm that it's the same figure. If it's the same figure from, you can even look at this. Does it make sense? Yeah, but from our data, you can look at the profits from these 2,113. So I have the correct figure. Now I want to look at this in my dashboard. So that's where I'll introduce the developer tools. I'll be using the option button. So what happens is this option button, anytime you click, it displays a number. When I click, like my first click, will always display a number. So to make it make sense, I'll link it to a cell. I want to link it to my analysis. So I can link it to this cell. So this is what happens. When I click it, it shows a number 1. So it means my first click is 1. So this means if I have several buttons, I can use it to filter my data. Then I can say number 1 is for my first data. So I can introduce a code for this. Like I can call it a code so that I can use it to filter my data. So to make this look better, I can use this option. So the code. So I can call the first one chocolate chip. Then in my button, I'll call this chocolate chip. After this, I'll actually explain why I'm doing that after doing it. So I can call this chocolate chip. So I'm doing this so that I can have a dynamic dashboard where when I click chocolate chip, the total amount of sales, the revenue, or the profits can appear in this section. So then I'll copy and paste this. So this is my second button or option. So I can call this fortune cookies. Cookie. So what happens is when I click the second one, I have number 2 here. So which means if I put number 2 as my code here, I can use an index and match function to filter or to have these values. For example, if I want to have the value for chocolate chip, I can use this as a filter. So we'll go to the third one. So the third one, I'll also copy. So the third one is oatmeal raisin. So I'll do the same. Oatmeal raisin. Then I can assign a value to that as number 3. Then I'll do the same for the rest. So for this, I have sneaker doodle. Sneaker. Then I can have this here. So I have a spelling issue. I can change this from here. Then the last one, actually we have two more. So for this I can call it sugar. Then I can have it here. Then for the last one, I can call it white chocolate macadamia nuts. I don't know if you guys like cookies. Me, I like cookies. Akama, do you like cookies?
I'm with you with that, on that.
You like cookies?
I do.
Okay. So I have this category. Now I can use these filter buttons or filter options to select my data. So from this category, I want to look at the total units sold for each. I want to create a dashboard that when someone clicks on chocolate chip, you can look at the units sold for chocolate chip. When you click fortune cookie, you can look at the units sold, you can look at the profits, you can look at the revenue. Then I'll have one more button for everything, like all of them. If I want to look at everything, all the sales, all the units, all the revenue. Oh yeah, I can have this, but I'll get to this later. So after this, I'll now want to see my data here. So I'll also use a text box. I'll insert a text box where I'll look at my data. So I want to look at the units sold, profits, the numbers for the units sold, the profits, and for the revenue for each category. So I guess I'll insert another one. You go to insert text box. Then I can have a text box here. You can also insert another text box. Yeah, then from here I can change how they appear, their sizes. So I want them to be the same size. So you press Control, then select all of them. I don't know why this is not happening. Yeah, you can press Control, then select all. Then you can change the size and properties, the height. I want them to have the same height and the same width. So I can increase the width for all of them uniformly. So from there, I can align them to the way I want. So to align them to be the same, you also right click, you press Control, then press the bottom part. It's not working. Then you can go to format shape, then you can align to the top or to how you want, center. You can play with that. So for this case, I won't be using align today. I'll do it the other way. Now I have them. So I want this to be the units sold. I want this to be the revenue. I want this to be the profits for each of them. So I can also introduce another text box to show that as the titles. So I'll do the same text box. Then I can have this as cumulative units, cumulative units sold to date. So to make this visible, you can increase this. Then to have the same color as my background color, you have the option of going. You right click. You have the option of going to this text box. Then you right click. Then you format shape. So from here you can say no fill and no line. So when you do that, there'll be no line. So without selecting the no line, your text box will look like this. So to remove the line, you do that. So I'll go back to it. Then I don't want the line to appear. So this is the text box for the total units sold so far in this company. So I can have them here. So also to change the color for this, I can work with this format, shape format. Then I usually prefer this. They look more nice. So I can go with this color. Then I can copy the same for all. Then I can copy the same for all. Then change the title. So I can copy this because I want to have 3 of them for the profits and for the units sold. So I have the 3 of them now. So then I can also copy this, then name it cumulative profits to date. Cumulative profits to date, because it will be nice if you can know how the company is performing. It's more nice when you know the profits made so far for a given period of time, or for the period since the company started operating. So also I'll copy again. And I want to look at the revenue. So I have the units sold, I have the profits. I also want to look at the cumulative revenue so far. So I'll go to this option, cumulative revenue to date. And now I have them aligned like this. So something to do with Excel, you can always align them. If you click them together, then you go to shape format, then you can align to the top so they can align. Something else to note is you can group them together so that when you move one of them, all the rest can move. So I can select all, then group. So let me repeat that. So I can select the bottom part for this, also for this, this is not working. Control. Okay, I'll group them later. So now I want to look at the numbers for this. When I select chocolate chip, I'll want to look at the sales units, the profits, and the revenue so far. So I'll go back to my data. So this is where I introduce the index and match function. So I want to look at the units sold, profits, and the revenue. Such that when I click chocolate chip, I can get the sales, the units for chocolate chip. So to do that, I'll use index and match. So this was number 4, 5, and this was 6. Yeah, so I'll use the index and match function to get the data for the units based on the product. So to do that, I'll say index and match. So I'll index what I want to see. I want to look at the units sold. So this is it, sales units. So I'll index this category. Part of my dashboard, I'll also want to see the total sales so far, total profit so far. So I'll include this. So then I can use the F4 function to ensure it maintains the same relative position. Then, so using index and match function, you usually index where you want to see, then you match a criteria. So I'll match the lookup value. So I'm looking up for 1 in this data array. So what happens when I do that? So what happens is it will pull the data for the first one. So if you look at number 1, which is chocolate chip, the sales unit is 255K. So, and it's the one that appears here. So to make sure this number is consistent, you lock your data using F4 so that when you change, like when I go to the second one, fortune cookies, I have the values for fortune cookies, 117. Then I can link this to my dashboard. So in my dashboard, I'll click inside the text box. Then I can say equals to this. Now I have this. So from here, I can increase the size to maybe 24 or 20. Yeah, or 20. Then I can remove decimal points in my data. I don't want my data to have decimal points. So I can do that. I want my data to have no decimal points, but I also want my data to have 1000 separator. So I don't want any decimal points. I want whole numbers. So now I can select the units sold to date for cookie chip, for fortune cookies, for oatmeal, for snickerdoodle, for sugar, for white macadamia. So I can do all that using this. So we can go to the other options, the profits and the revenue. So we'll use the same criteria. Also, so to prove this is right, you can also index and match to see if it makes sense. If this is the chocolate chip, so you can index this. If you want to confirm you're doing the right thing, then you can match this from this. Let's see what will be here. Exact match. So we have the chocolate chip. So you can do that so that at any one point you ensure your data makes sense or you reporting what's correct. So also always remember to use the F4 function. Then we can go for the sales. So, or for the profits. So for the profits, I'll do the same index. I'll index the profits, then match this selection for this lookup array, and I want to see the exact match. So that's that. So then we can go to the revenue. So I don't have revenue in my data, so I can introduce the revenue. So same criteria we were using, SUMIF. So SUMIF is used to analyze data with one criteria. If you want to analyze data using multiple criteria, you can use SUMIFs, but on this case, I'm using SUMIF. So SUMIF my data. I want to look at this criteria, and I want the revenue. So as usual, press F4 after this, then I can have the total revenue. So this should make sense. This revenue minus this should make sense, the revenue and the profits and the cost. So I won't introduce cost in this, so I don't have the cost, but profits is the revenue minus the cost. So to get the revenue in this, you can also do the same. Next, the revenue, then match what you want to see. So we're matching these for this array of data, and we want to see the exact match. So I can say the revenue for number 6 is white macadamia was 737K, 737, 730. So the revenue is in dollars, so we can change the currency here. So we can change the profits and the revenue to the currency. Then this is numbers. Yeah, so also this can be the same. Currency in dollars. Now I can link the profits and the revenue in my data using the same way. So to do that, remember you click inside the text box, then you can say equals to, you want to look at the profits, equals to profits. Then for this you can say equals to revenue. So now I have the revenue for each category of items. I have the revenue for chocolate chip, for the sugar, for all my cookies. Then to increase the font size, I'll select all, then I can go to 20. Yeah, so now I have my data like this. Based on this, I can look at the sales, the units sold so far for each category. So then I can give this a title, maybe performance summary or something. But before you go to that, it's also interesting to know the total profits so far, total sales so far, or total units sold so far. So that's where I can introduce another option, then maybe have it here, so that looking at my criteria, I can know so far we've made this amount of revenue, so far we've made this amount of profits. So I'll copy and paste this. I want to look at the revenue and profits also. So I'm copying and pasting to make it so that I can't repeat what I've done, to make it easy. Also, I can delete this, and for this I can remove the link. Then I can introduce another title, total profits so far. So I want to look at three things: total profits so far, total revenue so far, and total sales units so far. This category is for each individual, the numbers for each individual. So for this, I'll also want to look at the totals so far for all of them. So I can do this. So since I have all this space for me, I can introduce this here. So then I can have a title. So I can copy this, then rename. So I can call it cumulative. Total units sold to date for all categories, all products, or yeah, total units sold to date, and maybe I can call it all products. Total units sold today, all products. Then I can copy this again and call it total profits to date, all products. Then maybe total revenue for all the products. So I'll do the same. All revenue. So this is so that looking at my dashboard, I can know, since for this particular period of time, the company has made this amount of profits so far. Then in this category, you can go to individual category like chocolate chip, sneaker, sugar. So this is a breakdown for the categories. Then this is for all the items, because at the end of the day, you'll be looking at the profits for everything in the company. Then I can now I can also align them to the top. Yeah, then I can group them. Remember, we can group our text fields so that when you select one of them, the rest can be selected. So I can group them together so that, so I think there's an issue with this. I don't know why, but it should be grouping. So, but first, let me have the data for total units sold so far. So units sold so far, we have them. If we look at our pivot tables for units sold, we have this number 861 150, but I'll be using the number from my analysis. So I'll link my dashboard to this number, then also to this number. So I want to link my data to these numbers. So how do I do that? You click inside the text box, then equals to this for sales units, and for profits, you can do the same. And for this, I can do the same. If I want to introduce the cost, because in my data there is we have the cost, I'll also do the same for the cost. If I want my dashboard to have the cost for the items. So from here, to remember to ensure you have the same size for all, you can always click Control, then click them all. Then you can change the size and properties so that they can have the same length and the same height. Yeah. So if I want my buttons to be that height or to be that high, I can do that. Then also I can align them to the top so that they can be in the same. Then also I can control all. Then I can change the size to 20. Then maybe I can have this in the middle. So based on my data, this should be numbers and this should be currency. So I can change that. So I can have this as currencies. So I can click that and go to this. Then my data will change. So now I have everything I need. So this is static. So this number will change anytime. So this is dynamic, not static. So this will change when there is a change in the categories. Like when we have more units sold, we can have this. When we have more units as profits, when we have more. So this was total revenue. When you have more revenue or we have a new month, this can be dynamic. So this was total revenue to date. So now I have a dashboard like this. So I want these numbers I want this area to show me the total units sold to date for a particular period, maybe a month. So this won't be changing. It will only change when I have new data set or when I introduce, when we make new sales or when we move to a new month, then I can remove this. So you realize in my dashboard, I've used two functions, SUMIF and index and match, and I've only used the option buttons. So if I want to introduce something else, I can do. So remember, when you want to change the sizes, you can always click Control, then you can change for all. If I want to increase the height, I can always change for all at the same time. Also, to do this, to align them to be at the same level, you can do that. Then now I have a dashboard looking like this. So what if I want to introduce the trends for cost in my dashboard? Then I can do the same. I can introduce something new here. Then I can call it cost. Then I can change the values in the pivot table. That's something interesting in the pivot table. You can always manipulate it to the way you want it. So right now I want the costs. Then from here I can introduce a chart, pivot chart for the trend in the cost. So remember, this is I can call it the cost trends or trend. Then to clean my chart, I'll always delete. Then you can remove all the fill buttons. Then I want this to be 4 of them. Then I can use this. So we have the highest is 200K. So by 4, that's 50. So I can have these as 50K. Then I can have my data to appear in thousands or hundreds to the way I want. Then now I can introduce a new chart to my pivot table or to my dashboard. So I can add it here. So I can have it here. Then remember, you can always change the sizes. When you click this, you can go here. This was 0.5. You can use this option to change the size. And this was 4.5. And we have it together with this. So while creating a dashboard, I like it when they align together. So I usually do that. Then I can add this to the group so that when I click this or when I move the rest, they can move with that. So we can check if it's in the group. So this isn't in my group. So I can click this, then add to the group. So like this. This is not working. This selection is not working. So I'll actually do this. Then click the grouping. For now, this is bringing some disappointments. Let me ungroup all. Then I can group them together. So I can click all together, then I can group them. So that if I want to move them, they can move. This one is not behaving like the rest. So let me repeat. So sometimes while trying to do this, you can find yourself in a challenge like this where you're trying to group and your chat is not cooperating. Yeah, I'll leave it like that for now because of the time. Then now I always make sure they are the same. Then from here we have our dashboard. We have our dashboard. We filter our data based on chocolate chip. You can look at the performance for chocolate chip. You can look at the performance for Malaysia, for United Kingdom, for Philippines. So all of them should be interactive. So if we have one of them that is interactive, you can look at this option, the report connection. Then from this, you can notice one of them is selected. So that's the units sold. So you can always remove the connection, add the connections. Using this option, you right click on your filter or on your slicer, then report connection. And also you can remove connection if you want to remove the connections. So with that, I have something like that. So now if I want to look at all my data sets, I can tell a story with this. I can say in 2022, this was the performance. For June, we had the highest units sold for all the units, for all the countries. If you go to a particular criteria, like for example, India or United Kingdom or US, then you can look at the profits, you can look at everything. And also using this, you can look at the category of your items. Like for US, you can say chocolate chip was had the highest sales unit. You can say there was oatmeal. Your data can tell a story. Also, you can select all of them. So I think now I can take questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Boniface, for that wonderful presentation. So let us put our questions on chat, or you can raise your hand. I can see someone has raised their hand. Boniface Otieno. Boniface, you can unmute and just ask. Boniface, please go ahead and ask.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Boniface. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks so much, Chris, Levy, and my namesake, Boniface Cheriot. I just have, I had two questions, but I think Boniface has addressed one. That is on the connections, how you connect using the slicers. How then do you use them? Do you connect? Do Do you connect the pie charts, the slicers? I think he has done that, has shown us you do through that through connections. My second question is on the analysis. It's on the analysis page. Is it the analysis worksheet? The numbers that he was putting there, so like up there, he put when he started with the developer tools, option 1, option 2, option 3, for you to use match and index. At one point it was 1, then I saw he put 6 there. I missed how he got the 6. Do you have to input those numbers? I mean, then the numbers are here. I'm referring to the codes. Do you have to put the codes up there manually so that now you can match as the lookup value?
So I can answer that. So I don't do it manually. You see, the way this tool works, when you click the first one, it shows a value 1. So then I can take that 1 and use it in my data set. So like if I put the 1 in my data, like for example manually in this part,
yes,
I can code it like 1 is the first one. The second one is cookie, like is fortune cookies. Then I can assign it 2, so that when I use lookup criteria, I can find it or I can pull the data. So I don't have control over this, but I have control over this. So I can assign my data to numbers. Then I can use these numbers to filter. Then I can use this to link to my data.
Okay, thanks. I think I've got you.
Anyone else with a question? Well done, Boniface.
Yeah, so please let's any questions? Nelson has typed something on the chat. Boniface, that for the profits by country and products, and can we share a slicer for the country and the products on the horizontal axis? Boniface?
Yeah, we can have. So for this particular presentation, I wanted it stuck like that, but it's possible to do that. Yeah. And for this question, so the numbers are linked with buttons through coding. Yeah. So you can code. You can use the. So maybe let me show these again for the buttons. So you see with the developer tools, let me repeat it here. So when you go to developer tools, we have these categories, the options. So when you click the option, it gives you a number. So you can link it to a cell. For example, let's say I want to link it here or here. So this happens. When I have the first button, I only have number 1. But when I have multiple buttons, like a lot of buttons, then each time I click a different button, I get something different. So then I can organize my data to fit this arrangement like that. So, and besides the button or the option button, we also have other options we can use that brings the same selection or the same filter way. So like we have this other option. I think it should be this. Let me look at this. Yes, this option for the filter for the developer tool has the same criteria for selection. Like you see this, when I click one, I can use this to link to my data, so that instead of the buttons or the option buttons, every time I want to look at number 1, I can click number 1. Number 2, I can click number 2. So this also is an option, but it depends on how you want to look at your data. So what happens is, now when you have the output displayed here, you can link this output as a selection criteria. So we have this developer tool, we have this, and also we have other categories of developer tools like these. I don't know if I'll explain about this today, but this is for input range. You can also link it to something. So let me link it to a cell, maybe here, then see what happens. So for this increase based on input range, like maybe the input range is, let me see, 100. I hope this will work. But this, I won't talk about this today. Let me leave this out first. Let's talk about this. So you had code, like you place the numbers to fit your data based on that. So I guess I have answered this question for Justin. So I don't have a developer in my Excel. So I think you can always use a developer. You can always have it in your Excel in the settings. I think if you go to settings in your data, you can have the developer tools. I think it should be somewhere in the file, in the options, somewhere, I think somewhere add-ins or quick access. It should be somewhere. You can explore your Excel, then you'll find it. You can customize, then you can find the developer tool somewhere here. I don't remember well, but it's somewhere here. Actually, it's here. So mine is
Yes, Boniface. I don't know whether it's me who is not hearing you.
I think he has gone mute.
Boniface, you can check your.
yeah. So you can hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah, so I was talking about the developer tools. If you don't have developer tool in your Excel, you can go to file, then options, then you can explore these parts, the customize. So you can tick. So I think in the default settings for Excel, this is not ticked. So if you untick this, what will happen? I won't have the developer tool. So you tick and tick. So you can go to this option. So there's a lot of things in the developer tools. You can explore these, all of these. We have a lot of them. Then you can use it maybe. Actually, some of the developer tools, there's one you can use. You can use it as a list. There's one you can use it as a drop down list. You can use it like a drop down list. I guess it's this one. Yeah, this one you can use it as a drop down list. So you can explore the developer tools. So I guess for this, if you link it to something, I think input range should be something, let's say this. Let's see, then you can link to this. I think it will work. Should work. But for today, I won't go to this. But you can explore the options in the developer tools.
Yeah, I think that was awesome. So I think if there's no more question, because I think a number of us can see a number of us are actually excusing ourselves and bowing out. So I think there have been questions about the worksheet. I think there are some of us who have not been, for one reason or the other, have not been able to download the worksheet from the link that was shared earlier on. However, it's going to be shared on your email, so please don't worry. Those of us who have not been able to access the workbook, so please don't feel bad. It will be shared across to each one of us on the email. Otherwise, thanks a lot. I think Boniface, unless there's something that you'd like to say, Christopher, maybe there's something you'd like to say.
Maybe the one question to Boniface is he can share with us if somebody wants to be good in creating dashboards, what does he or she needs to do to become good in creating dashboards?
Sure.
Okay, so according to me, I think I I look at the appearance of the dashboard, I'm impressed by the appearance. So firstly, the selection of colors, that's apart from the charts. So for the charts, you have to learn how to use the pivot tables well, because to have these numbers, these trends, you have to know how to use the pivot tables so that when new data set comes in, this can change or this can be interactive. Or let's say, for example, we have 2024 coming in. This can change because that's the good part about pivot tables. So to know how to use, how to create a dashboard, firstly, you have to know how to use a pivot table. Then you can explore the option for slicers and filtering the data. Then so that there could be a different looks for different visualization. So this was one of it. So I like it creating like this. Also, in our table, we could have maybe tables for numbers depending on how you want to display your data. Maybe you can avoid using this. Maybe you could change. You could have numbers in tables. It depends on how you want to look at your data. But to get to the point where you know how to create a dashboard well, you have to learn to use pivot tables, and you have to learn to make your data interactive, and definitely to know how to analyze data. Like you see, for this case, I had to use functions. So you have also to understand because technically dashboard look like the front end part. So there's work done. Like you have to analyze your data, you have to filter, you have to clean. So you have to know all that so that you can visualize your data well. I don't know if you all like these colors, but Mwangi, what do you think about these colors and the appearance?
For me, I love them because I love cool colors, and
Yes.
yeah, so for me they are good. Maybe there are those who love shouting colors, but for me that's the kind of dashboard that I would love to look at every day.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for that tip, and I think maybe next time you do for us a presentation on how to use pivot tables, because I think that's where everybody needs to start before they start creating dashboards.
Yeah.
So I hope you honor the invitation again to come and do pivot tables.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's it for me, Levy.
Yeah, I think Christopher, that was a stellar performance by our brother Boniface. Boniface, that was great. I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, we can give on the chat after we have something that's called React. If we can give Boniface some kind of a clap. If you can just go there on the top, let's just give him a clap and just be able to appreciate. Yes. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Boniface. I think, Christopher, if there's no more question, there's no more comment, I think we can call it a day. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I think see you in the next session.